Everybody, welcome to the Profit for Contractors podcast. I'm your host, Austin McGinnis, CEO of Profit for Contractors, CEO of Team Builders, and I have a special guest, Austin O'Neill. I call him my mini-me, but he is the marketing extraordinaire. He's the marketing officer for Team Builders. He's also CEO of his own marketing agency, Builder Marketing Pros, and he's also the head marketing coach inside the walls of PFC. And today we have a very exciting topic as we talk about the freedom ladder and the different identities of the freedom ladder as it relates to kind of being in startup mode, building the foundations of your business, into having some momentum, building a little bit of a team, and then all the way into really coming into some stability and growing and scaling your business with a ton of that momentum behind you. And so, what we want to do today is get the expertise of O'Neill and talk about what marketing looks like along each of these phases from startup to momentum, all the way into having some stability in your business. So, Austin, welcome.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome. And,
Yeah.
you've been working with a lot of clients in PFC.
Yep.
You recently put on a whole marketing masterclass that
Yep.
talked a lot about these types of things.
Correct.
And as we kind of formalize these identities and start to really um, preach the freedom ladder along all six operating systems, not just, sales and production and money, but specifically here marketing. There's also leadership and the freedom pieces as well. But specific to marketing, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I want to kind of kick it off with the question of, if I'm new in business, I've just got started, I got my LLC or my S corp set up, and I'm off and running, and I'm typically getting most of my leads from my circle, right? So my family, my friends, neighbors, what have you. Maybe I sent out a bunch of flyers or I did something, to get me started in business. Once I kind of get that running and going, what does marketing really look like for me if I'm the carpenter? I'm the carpenter identity or the foreman identity, and I just start to have some momentum, but I'm still swinging the hammer. I'm doing all the things. I'm invoicing. I'm making sure I get paid. I'm picking up the materials. I'm building the work. What can that person do from a marketing perspective to help him up that freedom ladder to get to the ability to build a team, to have a website? Like, what should these guys be doing first?
Uh, yeah. Loaded question. Loaded first question right off the bat here. I think a clarifying question would be, what does their bit? Let's paint the picture of what their business looks like. How many employees? What's the? Because oftentimes I'll talk to business owners and they always want to ask marketing questions first, but really the end goal is to create a better business. And so I need to know, initially, what does the picture of the business look like? What are we doing for revenue on a month? Because whatever the numbers are where we're at is then we can make decisions on, okay,
Sure.
what we're going to do and what makes the most sense
So let's
given.
let's just throw the example out then. Maybe I'm a sole proprietor, kind of a one man shop. Maybe I have a helper,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
And
Like an admin
no, no,
or
I would
like
say
a.
a helping hand in the field, probably
Oh,
like a
okay,
guy
okay,
that's
okay.
helping me
Sure.
accomplish the
Okay.
work. I don't yet have an admin.
Okay.
That typically would maybe come later. And then from a revenue perspective, I'm definitely doing less than like 50,000, maybe even less than 25,000 in a month.
Okay.
Okay, like just getting started.
Okay.
If my margins are okay, maybe I'm making 5 grand a month and I'm bringing in 60K a year, but like that 5K comes out of that 25K of revenue. So like that 20K is maybe to pay the overhead a little bit, put gas in my truck, but I'm buying mostly materials and job site goods to be able to get that job done.
Okay.
So I'm small beans,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yep.
what comes to mind for me is kind of the grassroots marketing approach,
Yeah.
things like that,
Yeah.
business cards.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I was talking to, or I was emailing Rob about this the other day because he was talking about how while we're working on developing his website and as we're in, he's, a little bit, he's bigger obviously than that, but a lot of the companies that are even what I'm finding out are bigger than that, their marketing is still over here and it's relatively small. It's
Mhm.
like, it's kind they don't really know
Yep.
what to do, where to spend their money, that type of thing. So what I'll say is,
Because you can get big just based off word of mouth.
yeah, and what I'll say here is when you go to, because I was giving the example of you talking to some of the architects from around here and then getting
Mhm.
the in. And one of the things that I was messaging him about was like, hey, when you go and do this, like there's never like something for nothing. And if we just go to a bunch of people and we're like, hey, by the way, my name's Rob and I do this carpentry business. Like, like it kind of insinuates like, hey, like, can you give me my business? Like everyone's kind of like got
Mhm,
that weird off put feeling of like, oh, these people are just showing up at my office,
mhm,
clearly just trying to like ask for work. It kind of feels like a one-sided relationship of like
mhm,
trying to get something for nothing. And what I was telling him was when we go and do this, what makes this important is like knowing what makes you different and what your strengths are and changing that narrative and giving them a one-page document or giving them like a three-page a nice booklet or something that talks about, hey, this is like, I know that you guys work with a lot of framing contractors as architects, but like here's how we can make your life easier. Here's why our business is what it is, and here's why working with us will make your life easier. And so that way you spin it in a way where it's like, hey, I'm not just coming to you asking for you to give me
mhm.
business like unsolicited. It's like, no, hey, let me tell you why when we end up working together, why you're going to love working with us so much, because we're going to make your life easier.
So what you're talking about with Rob, who Rob's one of our clients inside of PFC, you're talking about strategic alliances.
Yeah.
And so to me, right, if I'm just getting started, I'm a one man shop, or maybe I got a helper, I don't think it's ever too early to start building out strategic alliances, right?
No.
So thinking about referring, referral partners, right? If you're a drywall guy, the framing the company and the insulation company and the MEP guys that come before you would be great referral partners because sometimes they're getting calls from homeowners. They just opened up a wall to repair some plumbing, and I'm the drywall guy that can repair that drywall when it's done,
Right.
right? So those are good referral partners that are great, especially when you're starting out. And as a drywall guy, you might be starting out more in the patchwork side and kind of the renovation side where you're maybe not doing the drywall for a full custom home yet.
Hmm.
So referral partners, I think
Right.
that's great. What about like 5 by 5 by 10? We have that kind of instilled of our marketing inside of team builders that's always
Hmm.
been kind of back to the basics,
Hmm.
putting a yard sign
Hmm.
in the ground, um, passing out a little bit of a flyer, kind of like what you're talking about,
Hmm.
like the one pager to the neighbors,
Right.
five to the left, five to the right, 10 across the street
Yeah.
is kind of that model.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely something when I think of that carpenter foreman level, that's like has to be automatic. That's one thing that's super cheap that you can do to
Yeah.
implement right away into your business,
Yeah.
right?
And yeah, and for you guys out there that are listening to this right now, I think it's been called something different at some point in time, depending on what you know. But the 5 by 5 by 10, the purpose behind it is to feel more, it's to feel unsolicited. So a few years ago, I had something that showed up in the mail that was very much like, hey, this is just a notice. We want to let you know that we're working in the neighborhood. And we just want to let you know that, and since it's team builders, like ours turns out to be pretty good. Like, hey, just want to let you know there's going to be some more trucks in the street for a period of time here. There might be some trailers.
Hmm.
There might be some guys in the way. We just want to let you know if there's ever a problem, please just give us a call. And that's all. That's all we're looking for. And just because we haven't met yet doesn't mean you're not on the team, right?
Hmm.
And that's like, and then we leave them a little. We stuff
A
it in a
little
little
koozie.
koozie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. Like
nice little
enjoy.
holder.
Yeah, enjoy this koozie on us. And it's such a warm touch point. But I think where people get it twisted is a lot of times they'll try to be like, no, let's add a QR code, or like let's like tell them like, hey, we can. It's like that's not the point. The point is that like, hey, like this company, we want to come off as warm and we want to come off as unsolicited, and it makes it so much better of an initial first touch point. And it's a lot more like fishing than it is like, hey, I'm just gonna take my gun and shoot at you and
Mhm.
when you have, you're not looking for it, right?
Right.
And
So that's
right.
more of like you know, the giving to give kind of component, but
Exactly.
also like a lot of times when you see those flyers, it's like, do you have a job too? Do you want work done too? Here's, give us a call. This is, like it's kind of I see how a lot of contractors fall into that trap. But also like what you're saying is like be a little bit more lighthearted about it because you're
Yeah.
fishing. You're just putting it out there, creating more awareness about your company. You are in the neighborhood. If you put a yard sign in the ground, if you got a truck wrap, like those are really the basics that I would say live at this carpenter foreman level.
Right.
And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I
No.
feel like we got a lot of listeners that are probably going to be more
Yeah.
up the scale here. So getting into momentum where it's like if I'm a super, do you have any more to say about that
Sure. No,
particular point?
I just want to say that even though, you're further down the line, resources wise and marketing wise, it's still a really solid foundational piece that can be overlooked, especially for like bigger companies where it
Yeah.
matters And the reason why it matters is because your reputation matters locally.
Mhm.
Most of the time, people operate in cities and towns that are, yeah, you could, maybe you're out of Houston, but maybe you live in a smaller town, like a community, like Team
Mhm.
Builders is 50,000 people in Cedar Falls. And when you have a 5 by 5 by 10 and you're touching 20 people at every single job site, that adds up over time. And you making a good first impression as a company matters to your reputation.
Well, and I think if you think of
And
the math behind that too, where it's
yeah,
like if you're a fence company and you're installing 120 fences a year,
yeah,
right? And you're doing 120 5 by 5 by 10s, that's 20 touch points times 120. That would be like a massive amount of touch points, right? So,
yeah,
and those all like I've gotten, text messages from
right.
people in the community that are like, yo, got this flyer. Like,
Hmm.
wow, this is like super cool, great touch. Like, so it's well received when it's just like you're giving a koozie, giving some information, letting people know you're in the neighborhood, right?
Right,
I think that's
exactly.
that's that's like that's a high level touch point. If you can get to that level at this beginning stage, that's
Hmm.
easy for somebody to do. You're already on the job
Hmm.
site as a carpenter and foreman, right? You're kind of living, breathing, putting in the work. It takes 10 minutes to walk to those neighbors,
Hmm.
right? And put something in the mail, or not
Hmm.
necessarily in the mail because, you know, that's US Postal Service territory, right?
Right,
But
yeah, I can't
like
do that.
lay it on the
Front porch,
doorstep,
yeah,
if it's a
yep,
door hanger type thing, just put it over.
yeah.
Like you're not soliciting anything. You're just letting people
Yeah, I
know.
would not recommend putting it in the mail. That is,
Yeah.
federally illegal. So, yeah, the
Right.
the front porch works good.
Yep.
Yep,
But at the super and PM level, okay, so this guy is doubled in revenue. He's probably doing at least 50K a month.
okay,
Okay. And he has a little bit of a team. He's definitely still supervising the work. Maybe he's off the tools to a degree.
yep,
Likely, if he's a super, he's still maybe swinging the hammer on the complex stuff. And then growing into that PM level where you're truly kind of being a project manager, you're not swinging the hammer at all, but you're definitely, as that founder, you're still selling the jobs. You're still hosting that client relationship and really intact with the client where you need to be showing up on site, working through the details and nuances. It's not just, hey, my team's going to show up and get it done and I'll call you when I need the final check. You're still pretty heavily involved with projects at this point, but you're wearing many hats just like you were here, but your hats are growing bigger because now you got a team to manage too,
mhm,
right? So at this level, right, the things that come to mind for me is starting to grow your social presence. I mean, if you can do that here and just post a few things, like typically for us back in those early days, it was like one post a week and it was
mhm,
really rough. And it was
mhm.
like, here's a progress photo of my dirty job site,
Right, yeah,
Um, but like at this level, what are you trying to promote guys into, doing that's going to build on that reputation that they've already started here? Because, like you said, a lot of these guys at the higher level, they may be at a higher level, but their marketing's lagging, but they've been able to be so successful because of the quality of work, because of the
mhm,
word of mouth. Like that's
mhm,
great foundation.
mhm,
But also in the world we live in today, everything's online. People are always, you know, drywaller near me, concrete near me, kind of, searches in Google, and
mhm,
even Chat GPT is
mhm,
becoming a piece. So like here I'm thinking like social and maybe like having a website
mhm.
and what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost at that level, your number one asset at that point in time, that you would be creating is your website. And the reason why, there's a lot of reasons why. And the big one is that in a world where everything has started to live online and people, especially in the trades industries, like local service-based businesses is kind of the framework that this falls into, the niche category that this falls into. And if you're a local service-based business and you perform some sort of a trade, people that search for what you do, like you said, plumber near me, roofing company near me,
Hmm.
XYZ, that is the best type, in my opinion, of lead you can get from an online perspective because it's search intent, right? So,
Hmm.
like, for example, you can post on Facebook, you can run ads on Facebook, you can have a bunch of campaign, but at the end of the day, people on social media more often than not tend to be lookers
Mm.
because they're scrolling through their feed. You've had it happen. I've had it happen where you come across something and Facebook's got it pretty dialed in. They're like, I know what you like. I know what you want to shop for. I know what
Mhm.
you probably shouldn't spend money on, but like I could probably get you if if the
Mhm.
right ad shows, and then you click on it, and before you know it, you get on. But then most of the time, I don't end up buying it. I'm just like, oh, this. I was trying to figure out their marketing.
Right.
I was trying to
You get
figure
down the
out, yeah,
funnel a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like, "Ah, you almost got me."
yeah, exactly. Well, and so like it's the same thing if you're trying to sell a $20,000 roofing project, right? It's like,
Mhm.
well, they might just be looking, but if you have a good website and you have Google Ads that are connected to that website, what makes it the best combination, in my opinion, is that it's search intent and you have a higher quality lead.
Mhm.
And that's what we're trying to get, because once we get to a certain point in business, it's no longer about like getting more leads. It's about getting better quality leads.
Right.
And I
More attached to your niche and the things that you really wanna be doing that you know make you money.
exactly. And so where this all ends up falling is I need a good website for people to land on, and I need to have a few basic Google Ads running, search campaigns running that lead them there.
Mhm.
And what most people at this level do or end up being stuck at is the picture that I'm going to paint looks something like this. You have a website that someone built for you. The problem isn't that the website sucks. It's just that they built it once and then they left it, and it's not anywhere optimized where it should be. It's not up to date. It doesn't signal messaging very well. And one of your college buddies that you knew who grew up doing techie stuff, you sent him an email or called him one day, asked him if he could make you a website, makes you a website, sets it and forgets it.
Mm.
That's a whole other this is a whole other episode. We won't even get into that right now. But the reason why having a good website matters is because when people are searching, and if you're running Google search campaigns in general, it's all about trust. Where people land on your page, if I'm clicking on something sponsored, or even if I'm clicking on something organic, but especially sponsored, the first thing people are thinking in their head is, do I trust you? It's a sponsored result. Everyone goes through this all the time. If it's sponsored, I have a lot of questions because I know this company is putting money behind this. And I know that, is this just some ad trying to sell me something, or is this legit?
Mhm.
And when you come across as trustworthy and legit, which is why your website has to be up to par, and it has to look the part and look good, then people trust you.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of components. We can have a whole
Well, when it
series
comes
on
down to
that.
trust, you've always you throw out the analogy like the blue jeans of the business, right? They never go out of style. What can you explain that? Because I think that has a lot to do with trust, and I know what it is, but I want you to explain that in your terms to a listener that just doesn't really know what that is yet.
Yeah. So we always grew up saying that in the business early on, and it is the most important thing from a marketing standpoint. Everyone's always like, "Well, Austin, what more can we do to market our business, and what tactics can we use?" And there's a lot of there's a lot of ways and tactics we can do marketing, but at the very end of the day, you can't market a business that doesn't do good business. And it sounds very like trivial and obvious, but if your business operates where maybe you've ended up wronging some customers or things didn't go very well, like people talk, and it doesn't matter how much money I choose to throw at marketing, because and this is one of the things that one of the pillars of Builder Marketing Pros is throwing more money at bad marketing or at a bad business doesn't make it better marketing. You're
Mhm.
just throwing money to throw money at it.
Right. So if you're getting, every once in a while you get a 1-star review because you did
Right.
fail a
Right.
potential project or a potential client, right?
Right.
So, establishing a really solid reputation and just like the 5-star reviews, it's like for every, one person that does wrong, they're gonna leave a 5-star review. But for every 5 projects you do right, you might get one 5-star review, right? Like obviously you can have processes in place that increases that, but like that Google Map Pack and the way that you
Yeah.
show up on Google, like you have an online reputation and then you have like a in town reputation of
Right.
like what people think of you, as a
Right.
person, as a business owner, and how well you conduct your business.
Yeah, and that matters. And so that's what I'll always say is, at the end of the day, we can talk marketing as much as you want to talk marketing, but you can't market a crappy business. And you have to look at it's interesting because we'd sit there and we'd look at our big board, our production board. And a lot of times we get so deep in the weeds of the business, what decking did they order?
Mhm.
What's this remodel going to look like? We get so much intertwined in the logistics and everything of putting together the project. We have to remember and step back that like this whole timeline of this project is a relationship timeline with the customer. And we have to make sure that that relationship
Mhm.
goes well and goes smooth and
Mhm.
we treat them right, because if we don't, over time, that will compound and it will be hard to save.
Well, and at the end of the day, your profits are going to be tied to that customer
Exactly.
experience. If the customer has a shitty experience, it's probably because you didn't manage it correctly.
Mhm.
You maybe probably had cost overruns, or you didn't collect change orders. You gave away things because the client was having a shitty experience.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the job, they're pissed off and they don't want to pay their final invoice. And then before you know it, you're giving away clawbacks, to homeowners because that experience sucks. So your profit is directly tied to customer experience. And I think those are two foundational pillars of any successful business: is a really solid customer experience, right? Your product of what you put in place, like the quality of that is a part of that. But at the management of that relationship, the management of the job site has a lot to do with how that customer experiences your business, and your profitability is tied very heavily to that.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say, I wrote down here, as you're growing through these phases, you're building your reputation. And by the time you get to this level, you're at GM, COO level. You definitely have a team. You maybe even have a salesman, or you have an admin and a bookkeeper. You maybe even have a GM in place that's running, or a project manager running projects for you. Right. So when you get to that level, the founder, you as the owner are a little displaced from the client at that point, right? When you think of Disney World and the experience that they give, that magical experience that they give to everybody, that's instilled into their values. That's instilled into the way they operate. And there's a reason they can charge more at Disney World than across the street at Universal, right? And the show up rate to come back to Disney is like 70%. If you go there once, you're going to go back again, right? And that's because of their experience that they give you. So you got to think of it like that. And I think reputation was one thing that, when you get to this third level, this stability level, and you're detached from the homeowner a little bit, maintaining that becomes a little harder. And that happened at Team Builders a little bit too, where we felt a little bit of tension here because we maybe started to run bigger, badder projects, more projects, and we
Mhm.
were a little more displaced as
Mhm.
founders from
Mhm.
that end consumer. So that's something you got to watch out for. But at this level specifically, I really wanted to bring up the topic of having a scorecard and having data, right? Because at this first level, you definitely aren't going to have that. At this second level, if you can start tracking some of that, how many leads am I getting from my website? How many am I getting from my 5 by 5 by 10, my truck wraps, my yard signs? Because people call you, you have to ask them, how'd you hear about us? Right.
Right.
And getting and
Step
collecting that
1.
information is really step one. And then documenting it and having the data week to week, month to month, year on year. Now it starts to become a really powerful engine. I've seen that with team builders where we have 4 consecutive years of having this information. And as we've evolved, we've added and modified different things, but we've got insights now.
Mhm.
And so I think at this level, having a scorecard is undoubtedly like a must have. When you're at that stability level, you have a team where you need to start tracking this information. Can you talk a little bit about the marketing scorecard that you've developed over the years and how beneficial that's been?
Yeah, so I remember when we first started and, you know, just like every construction company, you're
Hmm.
almost throwing mud at the wall, seeing what sticks. You're just trying to figure it out.
Trying to find product market fit.
Everyone's wearing
Hmm.
multiple hats. Things are a little out of control, and we were talking about this the other day. And one of the things that I'm glad that we started doing was the idea of like we need a scorecard. And I think that it sounds so simple, but really the bottom line is if I want to lose weight or gain weight, I need to look at the scale every day. If I want to make more money in my bank account, I need to be up to par on my finances we have to be tracking the information every day. And it was crazy to me when we're like, "Oh my gosh, we've been like going through this business and someone gave the analogy that's like going in at halftime of a football game trying to make adjustments and they're like what's the score and you're like we don't know what the score is. We have been tracking anything. So it's like you don't know what adjustments to make and you don't know what's working and not working if you're not tracking anything. Right away, you're not going to know what the numbers really mean. And that the point isn't to have it all figured out right away. The point is to just start tracking
Right.
right
You're
away.
not going to go and analyze the
No,
scorecard just yet. You just need to
no,
start getting the
we're
data and collecting. And that's the easiest part is actually just collecting it and
right.
inputting the amount of leads or inputting where these people are coming from. The assessment, the analysis of it really comes maybe even like quarters later, a year later.
Right.
Right.
And I think, and that's why, again, half the reason why Builder Marketing Pros exists and what we've learned, it's taken 5 years to figure out, okay, now we're playing chess. Now we're not playing checkers anymore. Like now we
Mm,
know the information because we've been there, we've done it, we've analyzed it, we can see some numbers in certain areas and we can make adjustments and we know what adjustments to make based on years past and what we need, etc. The and so one of the things that I think is like the most important is understanding that like as you start to like track and gather information, there has to be this time period of patience because a lot of times it's like, okay, well, what do we need to fix or what do we need to do or what do we need to spend more money on? Or it's like we don't know. We don't know yet
mhm.
because we're just starting to figure out. And I was telling you that the other day. It's like just because you show up and get the gym membership, and now I'm starting to work with this new marketing professional, who built out this website for us, and now I'm starting to work with someone like, okay, now went to the gym and got the personal trainer. Well, that would be, and then turning around like 2 weeks later and being like, hey man, like where are the leads? Like where's the quality leads? And that would be like showing up at the gym, looking at the personal trainer, being like, hey man, like all these other people are jacked. What's wrong with your program? And the personal trainer is going to sit there and be like, brother, they've been doing this for 3 years. Like, you've been here for 2 weeks. And so it, there's part of it that needs to be a good program. And then there's part of it where you need consistency, you need analytics, you need numbers, you need data because you need to be able to make good decisions. Now, I was talking to you from the golf analogy. Just because you get your tour card doesn't guarantee you anything. If you want to become the best in any industry, in anything that you do, if you want to be the best roofing company in your area, if you want to be the best home remodeling company in your area, that is being the top of your game, the top of the industry. It's called being a professional. And you only get there from, yes, getting a website and getting your numbers, but you have to learn how to track the information and analyze it and be consistent and put the time in and do the things
Mhm.
that the best people in any industry in the world do. And so tracking it is half the battle. It's just a start.
Mhm.
Once we start to get, months and years under our belt, then we can help and start to understand, okay, what are we good at? What are we not good at? Where's our weakness? Where's the water in the bucket?
Mm.
Where's the holes in the bucket? Because I see a lot of people pouring marketing dollars and water into their bucket. And if the goal is to overflow out of the bucket, there's so many holes in the bottom that we're just pouring water in to pour water in.
Mhm.
And it's like we gotta fill the holes, but you don't know where the holes are if you aren't
If you
tracking
don't
the
have that
information.
information, right?
Exactly.
And so when I think of the scorecard, I think of like the types of things that we should be tracking, right? Number of leads is really something that you can track. But another
Mm-hmm.
thing that I really like is when I look at the magic equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If annual revenue divided by my
Mm-hmm.
average job size,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to tell me how many jobs I need to fulfill that revenue. So if
Correct.
I'm shooting to be $1 million contractor and my average job size is 100K,
Mm-hmm.
I need 10 jobs a year,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, if I need 10 jobs a year and I'm tracking my close rate, that means how many actual leads I give proposals to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then also how many of those actually close. So that's my close rate. So
Correct.
tracking close rate is also a part of the marketing piece because then it's driving the result of how many sales I'm getting,
Yeah,
right?
right. Now you're double dipping in the scorecards here because
Yeah, this is
marketing,
a sales
right, right,
scorecard, but I'm
right.
just
Yeah.
saying that marketing should convert to sales, right? It should help relate to how much revenue we can actually do. And if I'm also tracking job size, which is how many jobs I've sold, or like not necessarily how many jobs I sold, but my average job size is revenue that I've done in a year divided by how many of those jobs I did,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if I'm tracking my close rate and some of my average job size, then I can really convert to how many leads I need. So revenue divided by job size, number of jobs divided by my close rate gives me the amount of leads I need to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill that revenue.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And all those leads are coming from different sources. You have
Mm-hmm.
website, you have ads, you have referrals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your strategic alliances, your referral partners,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and then your print, which could be, your door hangers, your 5x5x10, your yard signs, your truck wraps, right?
Correct.
So those are, and there's more than that, right? You can have omnipresence in different realms, like Instagram and Facebook might be driving you some leads. Who knows?
Yeah,
Like you have different businesses get.
you've got your online sources, which would be your website, Google,
Mhm.
organic.
Yeah.
Your Google business profile, anything organic, and then also ads related. And then you can throw in meta ads in there if you want. I'm not a big
Fan of
proponent
that, yeah.
of getting tire kickers, but then when you get to I would call it, there's like a 3 tier to the people, and it's we classify it as like referral, or family friend,
Right.
and then we have business to business,
Yep.
and then we have repeat customer.
Repeat fan.
And so
Raving
those are the
fans.
3. I call that the in-person category, and then you have the print, which is the slash.
And then you can also start to
Yeah.
track close rate by this type, right? Where
Correct.
referrals should be your highest close rate. If you're paying ads, that's a little bit colder. That may be your lowest close rate.
Exactly.
Who knows? But like
Yep.
to know where you're winning from is also like another step up the ladder. And like, hey,
Right.
now my business is starting to become predictable because I have the data.
Right. And you can also get a really good picture painted of, hey, here's how much we're spending. Here's how much our average cost per lead is, and just starting to get an idea.
Now you know your ROAS, your return on ad spend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you get sales numbers down the road, you can really get a full picture.
Lead, yeah.
But your cost per lead is like a good indicator that is very, relatively speaking, easy to track, because you don't need to have the sales number to know the profit and the return and everything.
Right.
If you know your cost per lead, and you know that
you can make good sound decisions.
Right. Exactly. It's like, oh, hey, are we spending enough? Are we not spending enough? Like the picture starts to get painted the more we start to get the information.
Right. So to me, the scorecard, not just the marketing scorecard, but the sales scorecard, kind of go hand in hand, because it allows me to make this assessment. If I know I want to grow this next year by 500,000 or 1,000,000, what does that do? How many more jobs do I need? Has my average job size gone up? If so, I need less leads because I'm doing bigger jobs, right? They all kind of tie together. And then it's like, these are my channels.
Correct.
Right. So anything else you want to say? I feel like that was a solid wrap up of kind of where everyone's at with different stages and what they should be doing or focusing on at those different levels.
Yeah, I would say it's individual business based. So everyone has a different situation that they're in. Everyone's cost per lead, where you're at. Your cost per lead out in California running a business is going to generally be more expensive than your cost per lead as an Iowa-based company.
Sure.
And I've started to learn as I'm working in different places, okay, cost per lead is going to vary, but as long as it stays within a tolerance of, 2% of the job cost, or less than, they say 2 to 5%. That seems crazy high to me. Like anything less than 2% is kind of the world that we like to live in, generally speaking. So I would say, just from a numbers standpoint, if you're trying to gauge any sort of relative success of your marketing, that's probably a good spot to live. Is, hey, this is how much we spent, this is how many leads we got, this is our average job size, or how many and this is the cost per lead. That's a very basic way to
love that. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and something's resonating and you're like, man, I could really use a call with O'Neill, or I could have, like, I would love O'Neill to triage where I'm at in my business and what marketing looks like. I want you to book a call with Profit for Contractors. We will try to get you on the horn with him to be able to assess your business and try to lead you to that next step. At the end of the day, we do work with professional builders, tradespeople, and help them scale up the Freedom Ladder. And one of the operating systems in order to do that is the marketing operating system. And O'Neill has brought that to the table for us and coaches that inside the walls of PFC.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll close with here, I was writing about this the other day, is it truly doesn't matter it doesn't matter what our tactics are on your website, or how much we're spending on your ads, and how successful a certain area of marketing. At the end of the day, those things do matter. But what matters most is that we have a plan to create a more successful business for you down the road, as to what you've always wanted. A lot of people look at marketing as very short-sighted, and they see it as a spend. But if we do it in the right way, half the time people will come to me and I'm like, you don't need to spend, you're spending too much. Like you're trying to figure out where to push your chips in. You've just been hearing from a bunch of people that don't have the same interest in mind as what you were hoping for. And now you're spending a bunch of money. You feel that way. You feel disconnected from your marketing. Whereas, in this scenario, it's like, no, let's take a look at your business. What business do you want to have down the road? What is that ideal business for you? What does that look like? Then we can work backwards and figure out what marketing needs to be.
It's really painful seeing somebody that's like, they're spending Yelp ads, their Facebook ads, their Home Advisor, and like they're spending so much money on ads to get such a piss poor result. When in reality, they just need to like slow down assess the situation
Mhm.
so that they can have the foundation to speed up.
And yep, that's what we're best at here is helping people and business owners assess their situation and make
Right.
better financial decisions so
And
they
you
can grow their business.
and you need that roadmap of like where do you want to
Yes.
like where are you at? Where do you want to go? And then okay, what marketing is actually going to get you there? And then that's the assessment
Yes.
piece. So
Exactly.
appreciate you being on board here, man. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Sick.